Hello everybody, my name is Maxim and today I want to tell you about ECMAScript. What is it and how it relates to JavaScript. My presentation will consist of several parts. I will tell you a few words about the history of the language, dwell in detail on your future and briefly mention the development prospects. Let's say a few words about the history of language development. ECMAScript is the official name of the programming language that we all know under the commercial name JavaScript. This language appeared in 1997. The first version was extremely scarce and was not memorable. Only since the second version of the language it began to standardize, and since this time versions of the language standard is commonly called ECMAScript. The third version of the language received the minimum necessary set of functionality to become like a serious programming language. The first version has been developing so long that everyone forgot where they started and abandoned it. The widespread development of Ajax technology and library jQuery forced everyone to gather strength and release the fifth version. It was remembered for all by the huge variety of JS library for any purposes. The language has undergone significant changes since the release of the sixth version in 2015. The standard includes new convenient methods for working with arrays and objects, promises, classes, arrow functions, string patterns, and much more. And all developers were overjoyed from this. The most significant were constructor of promises and classes. It is thanks to the class constructor JS frameworks began to develop so rapidly, the most famous of which are React, Angular, and Vue. From a certain point in web development was appeared the concept of stack of technology. An example, a set of technology that form a platform at different levels of which only one language is used, JavaScript in this case. The ES7 version, which was released in June 2016, only two innovations appeared. The includes methods and the exponential operator. The most promising part of ES8 was the introduction of shared memory and atomic operations. This is the main improvement of the JavaScript engine aimed on introducing some kind of multi-threading, so that JS developers could write high-performance parallel programs in the future and manage memory independently. The most important part of this version is the concepts of async functions. Async await constructs allow us to work with asynchronous code as if it were regular synchronous code. ES9 version was released in 2018. It added support for REST and spread operators for object. The promise finally method allow you to run any code regardless of successful or non-successful execution of the promise, and asynchronous iteration in the form of for await of construct, which allow us to call a synchronous function that return a promise or sets of promise in a loop. The ES10 standard introduced new useful methods to working with arrays and add useful methods for working with iterable objects. The latest and fresh at the moment is the ES11 standard. So let's look at the most significant innovation. The first is match-all. Match-all is a new method added to string prototype that is associated with regular expressions. It returns an iterator which is return all matching group one after another. Choose the form in which one match came before. now has all the matches instead of usual array of results. Second is dynamic import. At the moment we can import files as models using Babel or Webpack. This function will help us get code on demand, better known as code splitting, without the additional cost of Webpack or other model packages. So we can also load the code in the if-else block. Dynamic import returns a promise. Therefore, import can now be assigned to a variable using async await. Big integer, this is a new built-in object that allows us to represent integers greater than n to the power of 53 minus 1. To indicate them, we must add symbol n to the end of the number. Promise all settled. This is a new and very useful addition to the promise all function. Unlike the old version, which ended in error, if the least one of the promises was rejected, a new version of this function is executed whenever all promises end. That is, they were completed successfully or failed. It returns an array that contains both the status of the promises and the value, on or error. Two's all settled never rejects. It is either on hold or successfully. Global this. ES 2020 brings global this, which always refer to a global object, no matter where we execute our code, unlike older versions in which it was impossible to access the window object inside Node. Foreign mechanics. The ECMA specification did not indicate in which order for x and y should be executed. Despite the fact that browsers have implemented a consistent order on their own, it is officially standardized in ES 2020. Optional chaining. Optional chaining syntax allow us to access deeply nested object properties without worrying if the property exists or not. If it exists, great. If not, undefined will be returned. This not only works on object properties, but also on functions, calls, or arrays. Knowledge collision. In JS, many values are false. For example, blank lines, number 0, undefined, null, false, none, etc. However, in many cases we need to check if the variable is null. That is undefined or null. For example, when a variable can have an empty string or even false. Unlike the logical OR operator, which always returns the true value, while the null operator returns a non-null value. Model namespace exports. Previously in JavaScript models, it was possible to import the entire contents of the file using a construction with an asterisk. Now this feature has also appeared for export. Import meta. The import meta commands allow us to get meta information about the model as an object containing the model URL as a property. So let's look to language development prospects. Today the language is developing comprehensively and fairly quickly. One of the most promising areas can be considered WebAssembly or WASM. This is a binary format run in browser, a virtual machine, and the result of compilation from a high-level language. And this means that such a runnable block of code has three distinct features: cross-platform, compact, and speed. Although the development of this technology began only in 2015, now there are popular ready-made solutions. For example, the popular Figma program for sketching and modeling UI/UX interfaces was developed using WASM. In fact, the Figma editor is written in C++ and cross-compiled in JavaScript using the ECMAScript cross-compiler. The ECMAScript compiler targets ASM.js a subset of JavaScript supported in all modern browsers that allow us to get predictable, compact machine code from the JavaScript JIT compiler. In addition, since WASM is primarily aimed at processing voluminous computational tasks, with its help, it is possible to build a neural network, including JavaScript, for example, using the ready-made Brain.js library. And conclusion. Simple scripting syntax, having gone a long difficult way, has become a professional tool for web developers. Thanks to close interaction with a large number of narrowly targeted tools, a modern developer can deploy the environment for almost any task. Moreover, whole web technology stacks appeared written in one language. Another advantage of using ECMAScript is its sustainability and pace of development. Starting in 2015, regular updates to the standard are annually released, with the addition of the new functionality and an extension of the old one. And all these innovations are usually supported by all modern browsers. All this has led to the fact that, according to recent polls, JavaScript is firmly in the first place in the world in the ranking of programming languages, and job opportunities for developers on JS are among the most popular on the market. So, this is all. Thank you for your attention and bye.